The Horizon landed at the New Singapore spaceport on a rainy Monday morning. Marcus watched Vexalia's face as she saw Earth for the first time. Her blue eyes widened at the sight of so much water falling from the sky. "Is it always this wet?" she asked, touching the window. "Not always," Marcus smiled, "but you'll see plenty of rain in New Singapore." When they stepped off the ship, officials in dark suits were waiting. A tall woman with gray hair stepped forward. "Commander Reed, we need to talk about your passenger," she said, looking at Vexalia with suspicion. Marcus had sent reports ahead about the princess, but he knew this wouldn't be easy. "Director Chen, this is Princess Vexalia of the Ceridian Empire." The meeting that followed was tense. In a small room with no windows, Earth officials argued about what to do with Vexalia. "We should return her," said one man. "This could cause problems with the Ceridians. Or we could study her abilities at the research center," suggested another. "If Ceridians can interface with technology, we need to understand how." Marcus slammed his hand on the table. "She is not a thing to be returned or studied. She's a person." "Commander Reed," Director Chen said calmly, "you don't seem to understand the diplomatic situation." "No, you don't understand," Marcus interrupted. "I invoke Section 7 of the Diplomatic Protection Act." The room went silent. Section 7 was rarely used. It allowed diplomats to claim personal protection rights for individuals in extreme circumstances. "You can't be serious," Director Chen said. "I am. Princess Vexalia is now under my personal protection," Marcus stated firmly. "Any attempt to remove her will violate Earth law." 2 hours later, Marcus and Vexalia arrived at his apartment in the city. It was small but had a view of the harbor. To Marcus, it was just his simple home. To Vexalia, it was a marvel. "You live here, alone? No servants?" she asked, touching everything. The kitchen counter, the sofa, the plants on the windowsill. "Just me," Marcus confirmed. "It's not much, but it's home." A knock at the door surprised them both. Outside stood a woman with dark curly hair and friendly eyes. "I heard you were back," she said to Marcus, then noticed Vexalia. "Oh, hello there. Amara, this is Vexalia," Marcus said. "Vexalia, this is Dr. Amara Jones, my neighbor and friend. She's a xenobiologist. She studies alien biology." Amara's eyes lit up with professional interest. "A Ceridian. I've never met one up close." Over tea, Marcus explained their situation. When he mentioned the markings and their purpose, Amara leaned forward. "May I?" she asked Vexalia, gesturing to her marked arm. Vexalia hesitated, then nodded. Amara examined the dark patterns carefully. "These aren't just decorative," Amara said finally. "They contain compounds that would affect brain chemistry. I'd need to run tests, but I think they're designed to suppress neural activity in specific areas." "Can you remove them?" Marcus asked. "Not remove, but I might be able to neutralize the compounds," Amara said thoughtfully. "It would take time and research." Later that night, after Amara left and Vexalia went to sleep in the spare room, Marcus received an alert on his security system. His blood ran cold as he read the message. Ceridian vessel detected entering Earth orbit. Official reason: diplomatic mission. Warning: energy signatures match royal security ships. Marcus stared at the ceiling for a long time. The Queen had discovered where her daughter was, and she wanted her back. What he didn't yet know was why the Queen was so desperate to reclaim a daughter she had given away. The truth would change everything Marcus thought he knew about the Ceridian Empire. The Royal Ceridian ship glittered like a diamond as it traveled through space. Marcus stood by a window, watching stars streak by. He wore formal Earth clothes, blue and silver, with the Earth Alliance symbol on his chest. Beside him, Vexalia looked different. Gone were the simple Earth clothes. She now wore royal Ceridian robes, but with a human touch. They were deep blue like Earth's oceans, not the purple and gold of her mother's court. "Are you ready?" Marcus asked. No, Vex'Elia admitted, but we have no choice. They had spent the journey preparing. Dr. Amara had given Vex'Elia more treatments to strengthen her mind against any attempts to suppress her abilities again. Marcus had studied ancient Ceridian laws with help from Earth's best legal experts. The ship landed on the Ceridian royal landing pad with a soft hiss. Queen Ixnera waited with her full court, hundreds of nobles in their finest clothes, all staring at the returning princess and her human advisor. "Welcome home, daughter," the queen said, her voice carrying across the platform. "I see you have brought your pet human with you." Several nobles laughed, but they stopped when Vex'Elia spoke. "I invoke the right of royal challenge," she announced clearly. The words echoed in the sudden silence. The queen's 4 hands froze in mid-gesture. "What did you say?" "By the laws of our ancestors, I challenge your decision to suppress the Nexus Mind abilities and to treat lower-ranked children as property," Vex'Elia continued. "These practices harm the Empire and must end." Whispers spread through the crowd. The right of royal challenge was ancient, almost forgotten, but it was still law. "This is absurd," the queen hissed, but Marcus saw fear in her eyes. "You have been corrupted by human ideas." "Perhaps," Vex'Elia agreed, "or perhaps I have been awakened by them. The challenge has been made. You must accept or abdicate." The queen had no choice. By ancient law, she had to either face the challenge or give up her throne. "Very well. The challenge will be heard in the royal court tomorrow." As guards led Marcus and Vex'Elia to guest quarters, Marcus whispered, "That went better than expected." "Don't celebrate yet," Vex'Elia warned. "Tonight will be the most dangerous time." She was right. Just after midnight, the door to their quarters slid open silently. 3 shadowy figures slipped in, carrying what looked like weapons. But Marcus and Vex'Elia weren't in their beds. Following human instinct, Marcus had created a simple trap, pillows under blankets, and a recording device that mimicked breathing. From where they hid in the ceiling panels, Marcus and Vex'Elia watched the assassins discover the empty beds. Then Marcus pressed a button on a small device he had brought from Earth. Bright lights flashed, temporarily blinding the assassins. At the same time, alarms blared throughout the palace. "What is happening?" one assassin cried out. "Human technology," Marcus said as he dropped from the ceiling. "Plus a live broadcast to every screen in the palace." The assassins tried to flee but found themselves surrounded by royal guards, not the queen's personal guards, but those loyal to the laws of Ceridia itself. "The queen sent assassins," Vex'Elia announced, her voice transmitted to every corner of the palace. "She breaks our most sacred law, that royal blood cannot be spilled by royal hands." By morning, everything had changed. Nobles who had been silent for generations began to speak up. Many had 3rd or 4th children who had been pushed aside, their abilities suppressed. In the Great Hall, as the challenge was about to begin, Marcus noticed something surprising. Many of the younger nobles wore small blue ribbons, the color of Earth and of Vex'Elia's eyes. "What happens now?" Marcus asked quietly. "Now," Vex'Elia said, "we change an empire." What neither of them fully realized was how deep that change would go, or how it would transform not just Ceridia, but the entire galaxy's understanding of humanity. 3 days after the meeting, Marcus was woken by his security system. A single Ceridian shuttle had landed at the new Singapore spaceport. The passenger, Queen Ixnera herself, with only 2 guards. "She's coming here, alone." Vex'Elia couldn't believe it. A queen never travels without her full royal guard. What's she planning? Marcus wondered as he quickly dressed. An hour later, the queen sat in Marcus's small living room. Without her floating throne and royal clothes, she looked almost normal. Almost. "Commander Reed," she said, her voice softer than before. "I wish to speak privately." Marcus looked at Vex'Elia, who nodded. "I'll be in the next room," she said. When they were alone, the queen's manner changed completely. You have created a difficult situation, human, she said, but perhaps one we can both benefit from. I'm listening, Marcus said cautiously. My daughter carries more than just the Nexus mind ability, the Queen explained. In her genetic memory, she holds access codes to our military systems, planetary defenses, and biological technology. Marcus felt cold. You expected me to discover this and use it against you. The Queen's four hands moved in a pattern that might have been nervousness. Yes, then I would have reason to declare war on Earth. But I didn't exploit her, Marcus said, understanding dawning. I helped her instead. Precisely. This is why humans are dangerous. You are unpredictable. The Queen almost sounded impressed. Now I face revolution at home because of what you have done. Outside the window, rain fell softly on the city. Marcus thought carefully about his next words. What do you want from me? Return my daughter, the Queen said. Publicly. Say she has served her purpose. I will take her back to Xeridia, where she will have an accident. No one will question it. Marcus felt sick. And if I refuse? The Queen's eyes hardened. Then I reveal to your people that Earth's valuable new trade partner has been developing biological weapons capable of targeting human DNA specifically. That's not true, Marcus said. Truth matters less than fear, Commander. Your people would demand protection. Your leaders would end relations with Xeridia. She leaned forward. And then I would have reason to attack anyway. Marcus stood up. I need time to consider this. You have until tomorrow, the Queen said. After she left, Marcus told Vex'ahlia everything. They sat in silence for a long time. She's afraid, Vex'ahlia said finally. Not just of me, but of change. The Xeridian Empire has ruled the same way for thousands of years. Marcus paced the room. There must be another option besides war or sending you back to die. Vex'ahlia's eyes suddenly lit up with that strange white glow. There is. I can see it now. What do you mean? My Nexus mind shows me possibilities. She stood up, energy radiating from her. What if I returned voluntarily? That's exactly what she wants. No, Vex'ahlia shook her head. Not as a prisoner. As a challenger. With you as my advisor. Marcus stared at her. Challenge the Queen. Is that even possible? There is an ancient law, rarely used, Vex'ahlia explained, her eyes still glowing. A royal child may challenge the ruling monarch's decisions if they can prove those decisions harm the empire. And you think you can prove that? With what I know now about how other societies work, yes. Her glow faded, but her determination remained. My mother fears change, but Xeridia needs it. Marcus thought about it. It was dangerous, possibly suicidal, but it was also brilliant. We'd be walking right into the heart of her power, he warned. Vex'ahlia smiled. Yes, but with something she doesn't have. What's that? Human thinking, she said. The most unpredictable force in the galaxy. That night, they sent a message to the Queen accepting her invitation to return to Xeridia. What they didn't tell her was that they had no intention of following her script. The game was changing, and for once, the ancient Queen was about to be outplayed. For 5 days, Dr. Amara Jones worked in her lab. She studied the dark markings on Vex'ahlia's skin and created a treatment to neutralize the chemicals. This might feel strange, Amara warned, as she applied a blue gel to Vex'ahlia's arms. The gel will sink into your skin and break down the compounds. Vex'ahlia sat very still. Marcus watched from nearby, worry clear on his face. Will it hurt her? He asked. It shouldn't, Amara said. But we're in new territory here. At first, nothing happened. Then Vex'ahlia gasped. Her blue eyes grew wide, and she gripped the edge of the table. What's wrong? Marcus moved quickly to her side. Nothing is wrong, Vex'ahlia whispered. Everything is clear. My mind feels like it's waking up after a long sleep. Over the next few hours, Vex'ahlia changed. She spoke more. She moved with new confidence. When she looked at electronic devices, she could see the energy flowing through them. The markings didn't just block my ability to interface with technology, she explained as they walked back to Marcus's apartment. They clouded my thinking, made it hard to focus. Why would your mother do that to you? Marcus asked. Vexalia stopped walking. Rain fell softly around them, but she didn't seem to notice. I need to show you something, she said. Back at the apartment, Vexalia sat cross-legged on the floor. She closed her eyes, and the lights in the room flickered. When she opened her eyes again, they glowed with white light. I can see things others can't, she said, her voice different, deeper, more musical. Patterns, connections, possibilities. She pointed to the wall, and suddenly images appeared there, like a projection. Marcus saw stars, planets, and flowing lines connecting them all. On Ceridia, once every 1,000 years, a child is born with what we call the nexus mind. Vexalia continued. They can perceive quantum probabilities, see pathways through time and space. The images shifted, showing a young Vexalia being tested by robed figures, then the queen looking angry and afraid. When I was young, the royal seers predicted I had this ability. Traditionally, such children are killed because they threaten the established order. But royal blood cannot be spilled by royal hands. It's our most sacred law. The projection faded. Vexalia's eyes returned to normal, and she looked tired. So your mother gave you to me, Marcus said slowly, to get rid of you without breaking their law. Yes, she expected you would either use me as a servant or hand me to your scientists. Either way, I would be out of her reach, but still alive. So her hands would be clean. Marcus sat heavily on the couch. She never expected me to help you. Humans are unpredictable, Vexalia said with a small smile. That's what makes you dangerous. A beeping sound interrupted them. Marcus checked his security alert. The Ceridian ships are moving closer to Earth, he reported. And I just got a message from Director Chen. The Queen is demanding a meeting tomorrow. She knows something has changed, Vexalia said. She can probably sense my awakening. Nexus minds create ripples in space-time when they fully activate. What will she do? She'll try to take me back. And if that fails, Vexalia looked out at the rainy city. She might decide Earth is too dangerous to exist. Marcus stood up, determination on his face. Then we need a plan. And I think I know how humans can outsmart even a queen with 1,000 years of royal experience. What Marcus didn't realize was that his human approach to problem-solving, creative, flexible, and sometimes completely illogical, would soon shock not just the Ceridian Queen, but the entire galactic community. The Earth ship Horizon hummed quietly as it moved through space. Commander Marcus Reed sat in his office, rubbing his tired eyes. It had been 3 days since leaving the Ceridian homeworld with Princess Vexalia. Computer, show me the princess's location, Marcus said. A small screen lit up. Princess Vexalia is in the observation deck, the ship's AI responded. Marcus found her sitting cross-legged on the floor, staring at the stars. She wore simple Earth clothes now, gray pants and a blue shirt that matched her eyes. May I join you? Marcus asked. The princess nodded without looking away from the window. Your stars look different from... The meeting with Queen Ixnera was set for noon at the Global Council building. Marcus arrived early with Vexalia. They had worked all night on their plan. Remember, Marcus whispered as they waited. Ceridians expect order and rules. They don't understand how humans think. Vexalia nodded. Her blue eyes were calm, but Marcus could sense her fear. The doors opened. Queen Ixnera entered with 4 tall guards. She looked even more impressive on Earth than she had in her palace. Her 4 arms were covered in gold, and her eyes burned with cold anger. Commander Reed, the Queen said, you have something that belongs to me. Director Chen and other Earth officials sat nervously at the table. No one wanted a conflict with the powerful Xeridian Empire. Your Majesty, Marcus replied politely, Princess Vexalia was given to me as a gift. Under Xeridian law, gifts cannot be reclaimed. The Queen's eyes narrowed. This is different. The princess carries royal blood. I have decided she must return home. I respectfully decline. Vexalia spoke up, her voice stronger than anyone expected. The Queen hissed, You will obey. Actually, Marcus interrupted, Princess Vexalia has requested asylum on Earth. Last night, she appeared on our global news networks. He played a video on the wall screen. There was Vexalia, telling her story to billions of humans around the world. You did what? The Queen's face showed shock for the first time. I also filed her case in 17 different Earth courts, Marcus continued, and registered her under the Sentient Rights Protection Act. This is outrageous. The Queen shouted, These are internal Xeridian matters. Not anymore, Marcus said calmly. Princess Vexalia's story has gone viral. People all over Earth and on 12 other planets are supporting her right to choose her own path. The Queen stood up, her face dark with rage. You think your primitive laws can stop me? I have a battle fleet in orbit. Yes, about that. Marcus smiled. While you were traveling here, Earth sent messages to all our allies. Attack us, and you'll face 27 worlds, not just one. This wasn't exactly true. Earth had only managed to alert 7 allies, but Marcus knew the Queen couldn't verify this information quickly. Also, Vexalia added, I revealed the truth about Nexus mines to the public. Right now, families across your empire are checking their 3rd and 4th children for signs of abilities. The Queen froze. This was her worst fear, that the lower classes would discover the potential power of their worthless children. This changes nothing, the Queen said finally, but her confidence was shaken. You are still my daughter. A daughter you tried to throw away, Vexalia replied. But humans don't throw people away. They see value where you saw only a threat. Marcus washed with pride. In the short time Vexalia had been on Earth, she had learned to stand up for herself, something unthinkable in Xeridian society. The Queen looked at Marcus with new eyes. You are more dangerous than we thought, human. We expected you to exploit her knowledge or powers. Instead, you helped her. That's what humans do, Marcus said simply. After the Queen left, Director Chen approached Marcus. That was incredibly risky. What if she attacks anyway? She won't, Marcus said confidently. Her power depends on tradition and fear. We just showed her that both can be challenged. That night, Marcus received an urgent message. The Xeridian royal fleet was leaving Earth orbit, but a smaller ship remained behind. What does it mean? Vexalia asked. It means your mother isn't giving up, Marcus replied. She's changing tactics. What neither of them expected was that the Queen herself would soon return, with a proposal that would shock them both. Commander Marcus Reed stood tall in the glittering hall of the Xeridian royal palace. Bright lights from 3 suns poured through the crystal dome above. The air smelled sweet and strange. Marcus tried not to fidget in his formal Earth uniform. The blue and silver fabric felt too tight around his neck. 6 months of talks had finally led to this moment. The signing of the first major trade deal between Earth and the powerful Xeridian Empire. Queen Ixnera sat on her floating throne. Her skin shimmered with purple and gold patterns. 4 arms moved gracefully as she spoke. Her voice sounded like music and thunder mixed together. Commander Reed of Earth, you have pleased the Xeridian Empire, the Queen announced. Such service deserves a royal gift. Marcus smiled politely. He expected a jewel or perhaps some rare Xeridian technology. That's what other ambassadors usually received. The Queen clapped her upper hands. A side door opened. 2 tall guards led in a slender figure. At first, Marcus thought it was a child. Then he realized it was a young Xeridian female. Unlike the queen's vibrant appearance, this Ceridian's skin was pale. Strange dark markings covered her arms and neck. Her head was bent low, eyes fixed on the floor. "I present my third daughter, Princess Vexalia," the queen said with a dismissive wave. "She is now yours." Marcus felt his mouth go dry. "I don't understand, Your Majesty." The royal translator leaned close to Marcus's ear. "Lower-ranked children are considered political assets, not family members. The queen honors you with ownership of her daughter. Refusing would cause great offense." Marcus's stomach turned. On Earth, giving a person as property would be unthinkable. But here he stood, on an alien world with alien customs, expected to accept a sentient being as a gift. The princess finally looked up. Her eyes were the color of Earth's oceans, a startling blue that seemed out of place among the Ceridians. Those eyes held no fear, just a quiet intelligence that caught Marcus off guard. "I am deeply honored," Marcus said carefully, buying time to think. "Such generosity is unexpected." The queen seemed pleased. "The princess has been prepared for basic service duties. She understands your language but may require training for more complex tasks." Marcus noticed how the court officials looked at the princess, not with cruelty, but with something worse. Complete indifference, as if she were merely an object. The dark markings on her skin, he now realized, were symbols of her low status. When the ceremony ended, Princess Vexalia followed Marcus silently to his temporary quarters. Her movements were graceful but restrained, like someone used to making herself invisible. Once alone, Marcus turned to her. "I want you to understand something. On Earth, we don't own people. I accepted you only because I had to, but I have no intention of treating you as property." The princess studied him with those intelligent blue eyes. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft but clear. "What will you do with me then, Commander?" "First, we'll return to my ship," Marcus said. "Then we'll figure this out together. I promise you won't be treated as a possession." A flicker of something passed across her face. Not quite hope, but perhaps the shadow of it. "That would be different," she said simply. Marcus nodded, already wondering how he would explain this diplomatic complication to his superiors. What he didn't know yet was that the pale princess with the ocean blue eyes would soon turn his world, and possibly the entire galaxy, upside down. The queen had given her daughter away thinking she was discarding something worthless. It would prove to be the biggest mistake of her long royal life. The great hall of Ceridia was packed with nobles, officials, and for the first time, common citizens. News of the royal challenge had spread across the planet overnight. Queen Ixnera sat on her floating throne, but she looked smaller somehow, less certain. The failed assassination attempt had weakened her position. Vexalia stood in the center of the hall, with Marcus beside her. She wore her blue robes proudly. "The challenge begins," announced an ancient official. Vexalia's eyes began to glow with white light. "I challenge the practice of suppressing the natural abilities of lower-ranked children. I challenge the idea that some Ceridians are worth less than others based only on their birth order." The queen laughed coldly. "These traditions have kept our empire strong for 10,000 years. What would you know about ruling? I know that strength comes from using all your resources, not wasting them," Vexalia replied. "On Earth, I saw a society where people are valued for their abilities, not their birth. Human societies are chaotic and primitive," the queen countered. Marcus stepped forward. "Yet we've achieved in centuries what took your empire millennia, because we don't waste any minds." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Many had never heard anyone speak to the queen this way. "Let me show you what we've lost," Vexalia said. Her glowing eyes grew brighter. Suddenly, images appeared in the air around her, scenes from Ceridia's past. The founders of the empire, working together regardless of birth rank. Early societies where abilities were celebrated, not suppressed. "This is our true heritage," Vexalia said, before the royal family began hoarding power. The queen stood up, shaking with rage. "These are lies. "Guards, end this now." But the guards didn't move. Many wore the small blue ribbons that had become a symbol of change. An older noble stepped forward. "My third son showed special abilities as a child. He was taken away, marked with suppressant chemicals. I never saw him again." Others began to speak up, sharing similar stories. The queen looked around frantically. Her support was crumbling. "Enough," she shouted. "I will not be questioned by a child and a human." She pressed a button on her throne. Secret doors opened in the walls, and royal guards, loyal only to her, poured in with weapons ready. "This challenge is over," the queen declared. But before the guards could act, Vexalia raised her hands. The white light spread from her eyes to surround her body. "You forget what a Nexus mind can do," she said calmly. The guards' weapons stopped working. The queen's floating throne sank slowly to the ground. "I don't want to take your throne, Mother," Vexalia said. "I want to change how we rule." The hall was silent. Then Marcus spoke. "On Earth, we have something called democracy. Leaders are chosen for their abilities, not their birth. And they must listen to the people they serve." "Ridiculous," the queen said, but her voice lacked conviction. An elderly noble with a blue ribbon stepped forward. "I have studied other worlds. Many successful empires use councils, voting systems. Perhaps it is time for Xeridia to evolve." Over the next few hours, something amazing happened. Nobles, officials, and citizens began talking together. Plans were made. Votes were taken. By sunset, Xeridia had a new system, a council of elected representatives, with the royal family serving as ceremonial leaders only. The queen, faced with overwhelming support for change, reluctantly accepted her new role. As day turned to night, Marcus and Vexalia stood on a balcony overlooking the capital city. "What will you do now?" Marcus asked. Vexalia smiled. "I want to be the first Xeridian ambassador to Earth. Our people have much to learn from humans. And we from you," Marcus said. Across the city, lights glowed blue in hundreds of windows, a sign of support for the changes and for the human ideas that had inspired them. The story of the neglected princess and the human who treated her with respect spread across the galaxy, and everywhere it went, people began to question old ways of thinking. Sometimes, the greatest revolution starts with the simplest act of kindness.